question. When someone says to you, "So, what do you do for work?" What do you say? In your own language, maybe this is easy. You know the words. You know how to explain your job, ask about someone else's, talk about what you like and what you find difficult. But in English, it can feel harder. What is your job title in English? How do you explain what you actually do? Not just the title, but the real work. And how do you keep the conversation going after the first answer? Talking about your job is one of the most important English skills you can have. You need it when you meet someone new. You need it at events, at parties, on trips. You need it in interviews, in emails, in casual conversations at a cafe. Hello, and welcome back to English Journey Studio. This is day 13 of your 30-day English journey. We are at the A2 level, building real vocabulary, real conversations, real confidence. Today, Sarah takes a break from her work and ends up having a conversation about exactly that, work, why she does it, and what it means to love what you do. Let's find out what happened. It is Wednesday, midday. Sarah had been working since 7 in the morning. She had reviewed her client presentation, fixed a small error on one of the slides, and emailed the final file to herself as a backup. She was focused. She was on track. And she was hungry. She stood up, stretched, put on her coat, and stepped outside. The air was cold and sharp, the kind of cold that wakes you up after hours indoors. She took a deep breath and felt her shoulders drop a little. She walked 2 blocks to the corner cup, not to work this time, just to eat something and breathe for 20 minutes. The cafe was quiet in the middle of a Wednesday. A few people were at laptops. A woman read a book near the window. There was the soft sound of the espresso machine and the smell of coffee and warm bread. Sarah ordered a chicken sandwich and a flat white. She found a small table near the back and sat down. She did not open her laptop. She just sat. She looked around. She let her mind rest. A flat white is similar to a latte but smaller and stronger. It has a shot of espresso with a small amount of steamed milk, less milk than a latte, more coffee flavor. Sarah had tried her first flat white at this cafe 2 days earlier, when the barista had recommended it. Now it was already her second time ordering it. That was how new favorites happened. You try something once, you like it, you come back. She took a sip and looked toward the door. Then she heard a familiar voice. "Sarah, is that you?" She looked up. It was Martin, the retired architect she had met on Monday. He was standing near the counter with a takeaway cup in his hand, his coat already on, looking pleasantly surprised. "Martin, hi. I come here every Wednesday," he said. "I did not expect to see you again so soon." "I needed a break," Sarah said. "I've been working since early this morning." Martin smiled. "That's a very good reason to come here." He looked at the chair across from her. "Are you alone? Do you mind if I sit for a few minutes?" "Please," Sarah said. He sat down. He set his cup on the table and unwound his scarf, a dark gray wool scarf that looked like it had been worn for 10 winters and still looked good. They talked for a moment about the weather. Cold this week, possibly rain tomorrow. The trees on the street outside were completely bare now, all the leaves gone. November in Brooklyn always happened fast. Then Martin leaned back slightly and said, "I realized something on Monday. I know you design things, but I don't actually know what you do. What kind of designer are you?" Sarah smiled. This was a question she had answered many times, in many situations, But she still liked being asked because it meant someone was genuinely curious. "I'm a graphic designer," she said. "Specifically, I work on visual identity for small businesses." Martin nodded slowly. "Tell me more." "A graphic designer," Sarah said, "is someone who creates visual content, images, layouts, designs to communicate a message or an idea." She thought for a moment about how to explain her work simply and clearly. "Think of any business you see in your neighborhood," she said. "A bakery, a cafe, a bookstore. They all have a name, but they also have a look, a logo, a color, a style of writing on their signs and packaging. When you see that logo, you recognize it immediately, even before you read the name. That look, that whole visual system is called a visual identity. And you create that," Martin said. It was not quite a question. "Yes, I work with small businesses, usually businesses that are just starting out or businesses that have been open for a few years, but their visual identity feels outdated. They know who they are, they know what they do, but they don't always know how to show that visually, through design. So you translate their identity into something visual," Martin said. Sarah looked at him. "Exactly. That's exactly what it is." She liked that he understood so quickly. Architects, she thought, worked visually too. They understood that how something looked was never separate from what it meant. A visual identity includes all the visual elements that represent a brand. The logo is part of it, but so are the colors, the fonts, the shapes, the way photographs are styled. Everything you see when you look at a company, that is its visual identity. "It sounds a little like architecture," Martin said. "Every decision in a building is both aesthetic and functional. The shape of a window is beautiful, but it also lets in light, controls airflow, changes how a room feels. It sounds like your work is the same kind of thinking." "It is," Sarah said. "It really is." "Do you work for a company?" Martin asked. "Or on your own?" "On my own," Sarah said. "I'm freelance." Freelance means you work independently, not for one employer, not at one company. A freelancer takes individual projects from different clients. Each project is separate. One month, you might work with a cafe. The next month, a small clothing brand. The month after that, a community organization. A client, Sarah explained, is the person or business that hires you and pays for your work. "I usually have 2 or 3 active clients at any one time." "That sounds very independent," Martin said. "I understand that feeling. I had my own practice for 20 years before I joined a larger firm." A practice, in architecture, law, or medicine, is a professional business run by one person or a small group. Martin had run his own architecture practice for 2 decades. In a way, he had also been a freelancer, working for himself, choosing his own clients, building something that was entirely his. "Is it hard?" Martin asked, "working alone?" Sarah thought about this honestly. "Sometimes," she said, "there's no team. You manage everything yourself. The creative work, the client communication, the schedule, the invoices. And when things are slow, there's no regular salary waiting. You have to go find the next project." "But," Martin said, he could hear that there was a but coming. Sarah smiled. "But every project feels like mine. I choose who I work with. I choose the kind of work I do. And when I finish something, when I see a logo I designed on the window of a real shop on a real street, that feeling is like nothing else." Martin nodded slowly. "That's why you do it," he said. "That's why I do it." They talked for another 10 minutes. Martin told Sarah about his favorite building in Brooklyn, a converted warehouse in Dumbo, near the water. He had walked past it every week for 15 years. He had never designed it. But I always wished I had, he said. Sarah told him about the project she was most proud of. It was a small Jamaican restaurant in Flatbush, she said. The owner's name was Mrs. Campbell. She had been running it for 12 years. What did the original logo look like? Martin asked. Just text, Sarah said. Her restaurant's name, in a basic font. Black letters on a white background. Nothing else. And you redesigned it. We spent 3 weeks on it together, Sarah said. I asked her a lot of questions. What does the restaurant feel like when you walk in? What do you want people to feel when they eat there? What are you most proud of? What did she say? She talked about her mother, Sarah said. Her mother had taught her to cook. She talked about Sunday mornings growing up, the smells, the colors, the sound of her family in the kitchen. That was the feeling she wanted the restaurant to have. So what did the new logo look like? A swallow, Sarah said. A bird in flight, small, clean, moving forward, and warm orange and deep green tones, the colors of the Jamaican flag, but softer, more personal. When I showed Mrs. Campbell the final version, she didn't say anything for a long time. And then, Martin said quietly, she said, "That's my restaurant." Martin was quiet for a moment. "That's the whole job right there," he said. Sarah looked at her watch. It was almost 1:30. She had been away from her desk for almost an hour. "I should get back," she said. "Big week." "I remember those," Martin said. He stood up and extended his hand. She shook it. "Good luck with whatever you're working on." "Thank you," Sarah said. "And thank you for this. It was good to talk." She walked back through the cafe, through the door, and out into the cold November air. She felt good, clear. Sometimes all you need is 20 minutes away from work to remember why you love it. She walked back toward her apartment, her desk, her plan, and her deadlines, ready. Today, Sarah took a lunch break and ended up in a conversation that reminded her why she does what she does. She talked to Martin about her work as a graphic designer. She explained visual identity, freelance work, clients, and she told him the story of a restaurant logo that made an owner cry. Quick vocabulary review. A graphic designer. A person who creates visual content to communicate a message. Visual identity. All the visual elements that represent a brand. The logo, colors, fonts, and overall style. A client. The person or business that hires you and pays for your services. Freelance. Working independently, taking individual projects from different clients instead of working for one company. A brand. The identity of a company or product, how it looks, how it feels, how people recognize it. A practice, a professional business run by one person or small group, common in architecture, law, and medicine. Aesthetic, relating to how something looks, its visual beauty or style. Functional, practical, designed to serve a specific purpose. To commission, to formally ask and pay someone to create a piece of work for you. Outdated, no longer modern or current, belonging to an earlier time. What do you do for work? An important question. Now you know how to answer it in English and how to keep the conversation going. If you finished today's episode, type Day 13 done in the comments right now. It helps you track your progress, and I love reading your notes. Tomorrow is Day 14. Sarah doesn't feel well. We'll learn how to talk about health, describe symptoms, and speak with a doctor in English. Keep listening, keep learning. See you tomorrow.